Hi, I'm Jerker Jorsho, Professor of Hydrology at Stockholm University. And together with Sara Kalantari, also at Stockholm University, I've developed this innovation lab that explores wetlands restoration as nature-based solution, including management and financing needs. So wetland restoration efforts are considerable in many parts of the world, including the EU. And this lab primarily considers the case of Sweden, where state funding for restoration measures is available through a long-term program. So in the Swedish case, the available state funding is distributed through county administrative boards, whereas it is the municipalities and actually landowners that can apply for money to cover costs for doing the wetland restoration. So it's like a bottom-up procedure. However, the goals of wetland restoration projects are diverse and in some cases conflicting. Frequently occurring goals are carbon sequestration, flood and drought mitigation, nutrient retention, and biodiversity enhancement. And these goals may not always be possible to reach, especially not multiple ones in individual wetland sites. Also, it's not clear if the local level incentives of landowners, municipalities are sufficiently high such that they will actually apply for the available money and do the rewetting. So this lab combined multidisciplinary expertise from national and regional authorities, landowners, wetland coordinators, NGOs, researchers, and insurance and policy specialists. Through 3 discussion sessions, the lab specifically investigated bottlenecks that hinders wetland restoration projects despite the state money availability. The lab also explored solutions. How can these bottlenecks be overcome? And are there alternative finance solutions to complement the currently heavy domination of resources from central government? So the first and the second lab sessions looked closer at the bottlenecks and how to overcome them. Key participants were the landowners, municipalities, and county administrative boards. And then the third lab looked towards accelerating the NBS financing and implementing by NBS by exploring alternative finance solutions. It included many of the participants from the first 2 labs, and in addition, insurance and policy specialists participated in this lab. They broadened the discussion to alternative finance models and comparative EU perspectives, informed by policy analysis and stakeholder interviews. A key finding of the lab is that the base funding availability for rewetting and restoration is not the primary constraint in Sweden. Rather, it was concerns about what happens in the long term that reduced landowner interest in rewetting, including a perceived risk that their land would be less valuable after being rewetted. In addition, landowners hesitated to implement rewetting projects due to long-term risks and uncertainty, including liability concerns, potential flooding, technical failure, for instance, ditch plug malfunction. There was also perceived goal misalignment between national targets and local landowner interests. So this lab identified a number of concrete main solution pathways to accelerate the restoration of wetlands as nature-based solutions. So first, the lab participants suggested that role model projects could raise the value of rewetted land and encourage wider adoption. This includes schemes with alternative crops or novel grazing practices. A promising Swedish example is the use of water buffalo for grazing in rewetted peatlands. They're also able to restore the peatlands without the need of costly human management interventions, and they can also generate revenue through dairy and meat products. The lab also identified solution packages that could be adapted locally or regionally. They should then preferably include region-adapted combination of discussed elements such as demonstration sites, insurance solutions, and monitoring to reduce landowner risks and unlock complementary private finance. Such solutions are likely to be highly relevant outside of the Swedish context also, so in many other EU countries. Thank you.